I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Natural Resource Board, Tuesday, June 6, 2023. If we could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Stadelman.
I'm here.
Ms. Callahan.
Present.
Dr. Carrier is on Zoom.
He has not yet attended Zoom.
Okay. Dr. Mosblick.
Present.
Ms. Ware. She's also on Zoom.
She has not yet attended Zoom either.
Okay. Ms. Billman. Ms. Haggerty.
She has not yet attended Zoom either.
Okay. And Mr. Carano.
Present.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for participating tonight. If we can have a motion for the approval of the minutes for the May 2nd meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the May 2nd meeting.
I second.
And can we get a voice approval for that?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We'll move on to number 5, announcements. Does anybody have any general announcements? We have 1 or 2? Yep.
Sorry, I've got an announcement for you guys. I just want to keep you up to date on the Treasure Coast Waterway cleanup that is coming up in July. That is going to be July 22nd, the week of the Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup Week, which you guys have your little save the date cards that I made sure you guys all have. The full week, I believe, is actually from the 15th to the 23rd is the official week, so people can virtually register to participate in the cleanup week and clean up whenever they can, or they can come to the Main Street Boat Ramp on the day of and participate with us. And I'll keep you guys posted as to some of the things that are going to be coming up for that. As individuals, if you want to sign up for the cleanup, now since you are board members, you can sign up as City of Sebastian Natural Resources Board as the team name, and that way we can keep track of who, and they'll be able to keep track of who's actually going to be coming as far as who's on the board. Local participants can do something similar for themselves if they have an organization that they want to come, or if they just want to do it by themselves, you know, they're more than welcome to do that. We, for the Treasure Coast Waterway cleanup, they have a photo shoot and a commercial that they are planning to work on. The date isn't quite set for that, but the Natural Resources Board is invited to participate in the photo shoot and the commercial shoot if you guys are interested. And as a committee member, I'm intending to participate in that because they have all the committee members come out from all the different organizations up and down the Treasure Coast. So at least if nobody else can be there, then I'll be there to represent. But if you guys want to, I'll keep you posted as to the information as that comes out. And also to make sure you're aware of it, on July 12th is going to be the Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup Week proclamation with the City Council. So if you're interested, we'd love to see you there at the City Council meeting. Thank you.
I think last year when we did it, I think we ended up with 950 pounds just at our station. And it would range from everything from little plastic bags and plastic cups to, I found a train wheel. I found a wheel off a train. And so it's just amazing the amount of stuff. And again, I think you said that was Saturday, July 15th to Sunday, July 23rd, 2023 at tcwaterwaycleanup.com. You can sign up there. Is there any other announcements? Anybody?
Ms. Haggerty has joined on Zoom.
Thank you.
If there's no additional announcements, then we'll move on to item 6, agenda modifications. Does anybody need to modify the agenda for anything tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, public input. Is there any public input? Anybody on Zoom?
I have one individual on Zoom.
If we can have your public input on Zoom, thank you for participating. Go ahead. No one on Zoom?
Yeah, this is Raymond Osborne at 790 Belfast Terrace in Sebastian. Good to be here. And I had an idea that I wanted to kind of get a feel for to see if it would work very well. And I've talked to Marine Resource Council about it. And it's the idea of floating gardens. And that's where you can have these gardens that float in the Indian River, and they take out nutrients. They help give some balance to the lagoon. And I was just want to explore and put some discovery into it to see if the city of Sebastian might consider the same, or at least doing a feasibility study. And I think we could expand upon it, if it looks successful or not, with different civic groups, like, many civic groups that are around the area, maybe the Chamber of Commerce. So I wanted to see if that could maybe be discussed either tonight or maybe a previous meeting. That's the idea of floating gardens, where, you have floating material like a box. You plant different plants in there, and they're floating on the Indian River, and they're taking the nutrients directly out of the water. So I just want to suggest that as a discovery item for research as a feasibility study. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your input. And if you'd like to send and have that address, send it in to Felicia Gordian at the Natural Resource Environmental Consultant for City of Sebastian. What is your title exactly now?
I'm the environmental technician.
The environmental technician, that's it, for the City of Sebastian. And if it's something that can be moved on, they'll set an agenda item, and we'll be glad to have you as a guest. And we greatly appreciate your input on that. Thank you for your consideration. Is there any additional input?
I have no one else on Zoom.
Seeing that, we'll close public input. And we'll move on to item 8, unfinished business. Item A is the continuation of the Sustainable Sebastian prioritization. 1, litter quitter status update. 2, determine top 5 sustainable Sebastian priorities. That's an action item. So we'll start with the item A, continue prioritization, and the litter quitter status update.
Hi. I'm gonna take the lead on this one. Felicia and I had discussed it, and I felt like there was some background information that I could provide that she, of course, couldn't know and didn't know. And really, it came out as I was going through your meeting minutes from the last meeting. And it occurred to me that some of possibly new members aren't really familiar how we came about with this Sustainable Sebastian. And so that's why I believe in front of you, you now have a copy, and I know some of you already had that copy, of the resolution and then the enabling ordinance that established the NRB. So that's kind of the spine, if you will, that established this group. And I wanted to make sure you had that. You know, the resolution itself, I believe there's, what is there, 6? There's 6. You know, we had come up with, some ideas. We brought it back to you all, and you really cemented those 6 initiatives. That then rolled into the resolution that we're acting upon today. And then you all took it and came up with all of the tasks that you felt was associated with it, and we came up with that 5-year plan. We are now entering year 4, correct? And I believe we've done pretty darn good, but I get the feeling when I'm reading through some of these minutes or hearing from you all that maybe some of you are unsatisfied with some of the direction that has gone forward, and I don't want to hear that, because we have such respect for all of you and your time, and my gosh, the brain power on this board is amazing. I mean, when I first started, there wasn't half this much brain power on here, and we so appreciate it. So with that, I wanted to kind of jump into what I had seen from our meeting in January, from several meetings years prior. And of course, I look at it with my blinders, okay? Because I am staff, I'm the community development director, I have a budget, I know what her time consists of. I'm also have a master's degree from FIT in environmental planning, so this has always been my role. I've always been an environmental planner, so I look at things in that way. But when I'm looking at the top priorities, I'm looking to see what we can get done, what resources we have in place. I know last year I thought the message was, hey, we want to do more native plantings and gardens and all that. So I put 15,000 in the budget. So that's all sitting there. So that's how I'm looking at things, but also going back in the notes to see what I heard the top 5 priorities to be. So that's what you're seeing in this spreadsheet of the highlighted yellow, okay? Because that was my understanding. So that's where I would like you all to at least give it due consideration. I also hear in the meeting minutes, we all only have so much time and we all only have so much energy. And then I think it was you, Charles, that then pointed out, well, look, this one also kind of goes to that one and kind of goes to this one and kind of goes to that one. And so maybe some of these things we can accomplish in tandem. But also, I wanted to bring you forward on some of the actions that we as the city are already moving forward on, okay? So if you do not mind, Mrs. Callahan, may I go ahead and start with my top 5, my understanding, and then please do your presentation. Is that okay? Okay, all right, good. I didn't want to step on anybody's toes or Shanghai the whole meeting. This is what my understanding was. So anyways, for the first initiative, what I thought we were concentrating on, because as you rightfully point out, KBB and CURB and all of those have seemed to have stepped away from the program. I'm sorry, please step in if I'm incorrect.
I think we'll discuss that second.
Okay, perfect. Anyway, so I believe that absolutely reducing our plastics in the city is paramount. I think we have stated that many times, that I believe that we need to set the standard. And I believe there's a way to do that between this whole thing. So that I believe everybody's saying is definitely a number 1 priority. For the initiative number 2, again, I put 15,000 into the budget to do some native plantings and kind of do an LID demonstration. I thought I was going to do that on a project that was already in the works. That project won't be starting until maybe next year now. But that money is in the budget if we have some thoughts on it. And this is in addition to the Tulip Pond. So again, if we need to use some of that money for Tulip Pond, we possibly could too, right? That's a grant though, so I don't want to step on Karen's toes on that one. So that's why I think that could be a second, also a priority, right? So then moving on to the initiative 3, the tree protection ordinance has got to be tackled. And I apologize that I haven't had the staff nor the time to do this myself. But I know this board, the citizens in the community have asked for this to be looked at on numerous occasions. If we feel that all we maybe have time for now is the tree protection, we could just start with that and then move on to the landscape next year. But I feel that this is important too. And Felicia got my whole big folder of all the notes and everybody's thoughts from years back, so we do have a little background on that. Then where am I? Where's 3? This is 4, I apologize.
Wait, hold on one second.
Go ahead.
Does everybody have task 3 on their page? Because I'm not finding it on mine. I go from task 2 and then to task 4.
It's not on the back?
Oh, gotcha, okay, all right.
I'm
We
so sorry.
we have the words that
3,
are
I
on this
got it, yeah,
five-year
it's on the
plan.
back.
And if we use the word initiative or we use the word goal, that'll work for us.
Right,
I
I got
do
you now.
apologize. initiative. You are absolutely correct. I'm sorry. And then 4 was reducing the city's operational footprint. And again, if we concentrate on reducing the plastics and the paper use in the city, I think that kind of also helps us with this criteria, right? And then, where are we? 5. 5 is last year, do you recall we did the whole LID BMP workshop? And Marine Resources Council, I did get confirmation from Steve Sharkey that they will be holding theirs again up in Rockledge as they did the 2 previous years. I think, what did I say, October 19th, 20th, I believe are the dates. I don't know the cost as of yet. But certainly we could maybe, help float somebody to go if we wanted to. I already want Felicia to go, so, so that's a given. But anyways, they're going to be doing that, and we did that workshop last year. We have been working for a long time on the green infrastructure map for the city. And we have also gotten snapshots, and we're not 100% done, but we have snapshots of all of our open spaces, if you will, and we are giving a little cut sheet of each saying what soils are there, what habitat's there, what connections there, what is it being used for today. We have several properties like that in the city, and so how can we improve the connectivity? When I did green infrastructure plans in Michigan, and when I was with the Nature Conservancy. So how we define it, and the EPA defines it, and I'm probably preaching to the board here, but when you have your green infrastructure, it really takes on almost 3 different values. You're talking about the connectivity of your stormwater benefits, obviously, your habitat benefit, your transfer of biological DNA, if you will. In the Nature Conservancy, when it was kind of a new term, it was thought of as what's a corridor, how do you define a corridor, and of course it's always defined on what species you're trying to accommodate, which is difficult in an urban development. We're trying to accommodate whoever the heck is there at this point. But it's interesting when you go out to these properties. I can identify scat, I'm sorry, but I'm very good at that. When we see signs of predation and it's not the feline cat Fluffy who lives in the house next door, we get very excited about that. And so that kind of stuff, what site were we on? We were getting attacked by, I think, the red-tailed hawk. Remember that one?
Was that one?
I think so, but they were mobilizing here, and we were off in the woods. We're like, whoa, we better get out of here. That kind of stuff is in existence here in our city, in our community. These are public properties. Some of them do have other uses that they need to adhere to in the future. But having that map and putting it all on one big map helps us, I believe, make the proper decisions in the future. So I want you to know, regardless of what you say, I'm still going to be working on that. So. Sorry, but I want to bring that all to you and get your input in the very near future. We have made really great inroads, especially with Ross on board. So where am I? Is that 6 yet? No, that was 5. 6, the walking audit. So years back when I started the comp plan, and AARP had their livable, sustainable, whatever program going. I think they still do. I was incorporating a lot of that stuff into our comprehensive plan, and they had walking audits. Do you recall that, Nikki? Because we have it in the files.
I think I don't know if it was the city of Sebastian. I remember filling out that survey.
Okay.
They were handing out stuff actually at the ELC when I happened to be there one time. So I think they were doing the whole community. But yes, I do remember that. That was a while back.
That was a while back.
Yeah.
It was a couple of years now. But anyways, we have walking audits. And I would love for us to get together and do a walking audit, just get us out of the office and not in front of the computer. I'm game. But On top of that, the city is already working fast and furious since we now have a real GIS person. And he's working with roads right now. They are trying to identify where all of our sidewalks are, where are our paths, and the surface that they're made of, whether they're concrete, whether they're asphalt, whether they're just a dirt goat path. But this way we can find gaps from this map. And so this may be more something we do come fall, when that map is kind of more complete, and then maybe we can start breaking up and doing different walking audits. It's just a thought. Again, these are things that I thought I heard as priorities from you all. We all understand that we have very limited resources and time, unfortunately. So with that in mind, I'd like you all to consider these, but also consider, of course, anything else that is, you know, you feel is more priority. And then let's try to really cement down what those are so that we can all have direction for next year, for the remainder of this year and into next year. Because the way I'm seeing it, since it's already June already, good gravy boat. And again, you all tell me, but, and it depends, I think, on the priorities that we outline. Is this a whole year from now that we'll look again, and then maybe we'll all say the 5 years up, let's move into the next 5-year plan. I'm just thinking out loud here. So I gave you a lot to think, to react to, but what's your pleasure now? Do you want to go into conversation and discussion, or would you like Ruth's presentation?
Well, hold on one second. Do you have any other comments?
No, not really. No, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I would really love it if we could get our 5 priorities kind of done and a timeline, and then what do we want to do moving forward, because, yeah, it's already June. You might as well say it's already August at this point, so.
Ruth, would you like to speak?
I would.
I'd like to hear from you.
Okay, thanks.
Are you presenting from there, Ruth? Are you standing up here, or
I
what do you
will
want to do?
present over there, but I think you asked several questions
I
on whether
did,
we
and I
wanted,
apologize.
I wanted to discuss a little bit of what you said. I'd like for us to come to our agenda item B, to the picking of what we want to do after my presentation. I just wanted to comment a few things about what you did say so far. And that is that, thank you for taking us through a journey on how we got to where we are. That's appreciated. It's also not lost, I think, on any of us that we have had good success. I don't necessarily agree with where we are on as listed currently on our plan, but those are details. I think the big picture is very positive that we have accomplished a lot, especially given that we had some years that we were limited, and nobody's going to say, hey, you didn't get anything done during 2020, right, or limited during 2021. As a whole, we were limited in what we could do together, and this is a together effort, so none of that's lost, and I want to keep it positive on that note. I do think that, going back on how this came about, when our resolution went through city council and we were coming up with those items, to me, it was almost like, what was the thing that stood out to us most was item 1. What stood out and people were talking about, it was almost in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in terms of the initiatives. That's my recollection on how those came about. And I also don't recall us as a group spending a lot of time. You mentioned that it was your understanding of the tulip garden and other plantings and spending money that way. My recall was more along the lines that we had opportunities with grants and such that involved those things that were incorporated in here. But as this group, we didn't necessarily prioritize that. It's great that we could come across and do those. So I just had those couple of comments about what you said, as well as saying I think what you have outlined are great. I just don't know if we were going to rank those or anything else. I don't know how I would rank them yet. I still want to have that open discussion. And I have one question, and it's related to time and resources. And so as a board, we're supposed to be recommending, we're all supposed to be implementing anything that the council has set forth before us. We have this resolution that they approved, and the elements that we kind of put together that we, I believe, handed to city council that this is our plan. We put it on our website that we're doing these things. Does a city employee have to be involved in each one of these activities? Does a city employee have to do these things? Or are these things that this group can do without a city employee?
Is that your final?
That's my final statement, and I would love an answer to my last question. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruth, for that.
You want an answer from me? I don't know. How about that for an answer? And I would have to check and see. I think I want to say it depends on the activity, right? So you all going out and distributing information, obviously not. You out on public let's say a public property and planting, I would say probably, because then at least there's a representative of the city with you in case there's questions, you know. That's how I'm kind of doing that line, but I could be wrong, and I would want to say it depends on the action and the activity. Is that fair enough? So maybe we take them like that, and we don't need answers tonight for that, but I mean, you know, when we say, hey, we're going to be doing this now, you know,
Does that answer your question, Ruth?
As much as it can, yes. I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Do you have any additional comment for that? Dr. Moseblack, do you have any questions on that?
Not at this time.
Tom, do you have anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
The only thing that I have is, from what I understand, is the CURB isn't really going to be participating with this program anymore. Okay, Ruth's going to talk about that. Okay, other than that, I'll hold on until Ruth is finished then. That's all I have. Then you have the floor.
And I'll use the mic down there just as a quick setup, is to say, to bring everybody up to date, I was supposed to come and do somewhat of a training or refresher on what Litter Quitter was about, and this is turning into something different, which it'll all be explained. And then the consideration at the end is really, is this now something you still want to keep moving forward with? So. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry, what? Great. No, it's fine. I'm just going through to see if this is.
Yeah, I'd get out of it, yeah. Did it get loaded up?
Yeah, this one was expected to go first, that's all. Sorry about that.
We all have the Sustainable Sebastian Resolution in front of us, and our first initiative really had to do with the single-use plastics, but it's important to see that we wrote it, and it was no matter whether it was I thought it was Initiative 1, Task task 1, 2, and 3, but whatever the tasks were, there were several tasks, and this was the description that got in the resolution, right? And single-use plastics, but we brought in keep Indian River beautiful, keep Brevard beautiful, litter quitter, ocean-friendly restaurants, right? There's a lot of different folks that were specifically called out. And so the task 1, goal 1, we have in our packet there, but certainly it involved working with the Keep Brevard Beautiful, Keep Indian River Beautiful, getting current volunteers and entering it into a certification system. I kind of wanted to highlight that. There's like 32 slides, and I'm going to roll through them quickly. They're in your information packet. Just trying to hit some key points here. So I had success in the past month since we last met of talking with several individuals. So on the Keep Brevard Beautiful, the person that was literally the person listed in all the litter quitter information. She no longer works with the organization. They've moved on. I got to talk to other people at that place, and they have people there. They're funded and such, but they brought it in front of their board. Since our last meeting, they agreed to bring it in front of the board. They had a meeting, and they decided that due to budgetary constraints, since this was a program that required funding, like for each of the things they had to print out as programs and such, and the volunteers that they thought it took to run the certification part of it, everything related to it took money. So they were going to stay with items that didn't require money. The Brevard Zoo is also a partner in that litter quitter program. I called to try to talk to the person listed in the litter quitter information for that. That person's no longer with the Brevard Zoo. I talked to her replacement, and her last day was in May. But she gave me a name of someone who will continue on sustainability initiatives at the Brevard Zoo. And she also, after this summer is over, she's going to take a whole summer over in Europe, come back, and she's running a whole group on how to use or conduct events with low waste or no waste, which might be of interest to us when we're doing our annual Arbor Day, Earth Day celebrations if we want to work toward that. So it's a good contact. And I reached out to Keep Indian River Beautiful. They have a website that's still going by a guy named Michael, who's very friendly. He lives in Sebastian, but they have no funding to have people working for that group anymore. They lost their primary funding, and so Michael is doing his best to keep up with the website, and pretty much all they do are cleanups, and it's in Vero Beach. I did find out from Michael the name of a person named Lisa, who is the lead for the Treasure Coast chapter of Surfrider, and she's very friendly. Her main job is in real estate, and so I hope to have talked to her again as she went through and was able to convince several of the restaurants in Stewart to actually become the equivalent of ocean-friendly restaurants there, which is encouraging. She could give us some help and guidance. But right now, there's no restaurants in the ocean-friendly program that are in Indian River County. And if you think about it for Sebastian, we don't have oceanfront, but they have concepts. And so what I'd like to do is just quickly hit what are we going to do? At least, hey, I can tell you a little bit about Litter Quitter for those of you who hadn't hit the key elements of those, what the ocean-friendly restaurant program is about, and then up to us on what we want to do in the future. So this next part of the presentation was one that was given to this board before. I didn't invent these things that said that, so I'm just going to fly through these slides, but just to let you know if they say something you don't understand, they were taken from 2019, and it was the status at that time. And so what is it about? You know, they had some goals that they wanted to work toward, and some pretty things here. the first two goals are the ones that I think are included in what we're working toward. They actually had 4 goals, and I highlighted them in our packet to say, I didn't ever remember coming across anything about the last 2. And so they have an established date. They really kicked it off in 2017 when they got Brevard Zoo, and then they put together the whole program in 2018. And in this thing that says this year, that was July of 2018, they came up with the packet and all the materials that they wanted to go and train volunteers. They came to us in 2019 at one of our meetings. And of course, I don't think we need to go through why does litter quitter matter, but they have the reasons stated in there as to why, as you're going to present this to anyone of why we're reducing plastics or single-use plastics, these are the reasons. There's a list of member benefits, and so the things that I think we want to focus in on is like what might we do? Well, we can take from maybe what they had in their programs, right? A sticker for a window, that might be interesting. Promotions on websites, mentions of company and press releases. The group pricing discounts was a big thing, alternate tableware that are plasticware that is not plastic, it's some other alternate products. They said they were going to have a network event annually. I'm not sure that they ever kicked that off. Or a day of support. I'm unsure that they ever kicked that off as either. And so they had several different people that are involved. The program partners were the zoo and Keep Brevard Beautiful. Those are the people who did a lot of the back work. The vendors are people like that offer the discounted things that you could offer for plastic wares or straws. The businesses are those that are doing, in our town, the restaurants and businesses, and volunteers who go and help get that program going. And so they have 3 levels, bronze, and the idea is that you have to meet one of these bronze things. The Ask First Straw policy is an example. They had a silver program that said, hey, you have to do one thing from bronze plus one of these things for silver, and usually, switch plastic bags to paper was an example. Then they had a higher level as well, where you had to meet that. You had to do one thing from bronze, silver, and also the gold. So those are the things that they could do. And one of the things I thought we always talked about as being cool, and so did the people that when we did the cleanups, was wouldn't it be great to get that deck netting at our waterside businesses? So this is kind of a summary level that they provided, the restaurant for the bronze, silver, gold, but businesses as well, and you can look and see, like, switch to electronic receipts. So businesses could be a part of this as well. The Ocean Friendly Restaurant program is just about restaurants, so interestingly enough, this was in the slide deck, and at the time they presented in 2019, they included Keep Indian River Beautiful and us, of course, with the initial founding partners. And so they had some other groups. These are the list of people that were the vendors at the time. This was the people they had. You can still, I think that website was still there when I looked a few weeks ago, that lists all these restaurants on a map. And then the volunteer program that they had, the 2 tasks they wanted you to do was to get new business and then make sure that the businesses that had signed up were still meeting the criteria. And the last reason I included this slide was that the things that I wanted to point out on this were materials that they possibly could put together. Rack card, I don't like the name of, but we'll take a look at it. The table tent, I don't like the name of it either, because they seem not to fit the description to me. We understand business card, window stickers, coasters for underneath beverages. So the rack card really is informational. I can see it being in a rack somewhere, like you can go up and pick up a pamphlet, right? Maybe that's the rack, but it tells you about what the goals are and how you can be in bronze, silver, and such. The coaster is self-explanatory. This is the one that they put together for use. The table tent, I don't like table tent, but just imagine that these are available for restaurants or whomever that comes in, that they can quickly look and go, oh, well, that's why they're not, we've, adopted a new straw policy. And it explains it and puts the business a little at ease. There's posters you can put in the windows that we could, print out and hand, and that's what the program was about, as well as the window sticker. I want you to look at this window sticker in the idea that business against waste. Just think that for a moment, and I'll come back to that. I included this specific slide because they had a Google Forms way of entering information and keeping track, so that as you went out to a new business or you went and visited an existing business and to see if they actually said they were going to do, gold or something, and they met the criteria they said they were going to do. So this is something that they had, and we were looking forward to having as an option, that they already built the Google Forms and had the interface that we could log in and record the information and have it plot on a map and all that. Going over to the Surfrider program, just to blow through what those things are. I want to go back just to say 2016 was the year that the Ocean Friendly Restaurants program started, although the Surfrider was established long before that. They have mandatory criteria that all 7 should be required. They're very similar to what we just looked at before. I can imagine being at a place to eat and finding only, silverware and not plasticware for foodware. The same thing about paper straws upon request. No polystyrene use, no plastic bags on to-go orders, and kind of an ask upon request. You can get some of these other things. And they do put a note at the bottom about people with disabilities or other reasons. If you need a straw, they're not going to say no. So you can read those criteria, and they are recognized there. They have some additional optional criteria you can feel free to read. I think we're really looking toward that first set of criteria anyway. And they have some of the same benefits. So what does the restaurant get out of doing this? They have the window stickers, they have brochures, they have information that you can tell to your customers. There's some promotion material on their local and national websites, logos and such that they can put it on the restaurant, on their own material. And they start parties and collaborations for the people who are joined, just as ideas of what you could do. So what we have currently on the Sebastian NRB website, at least unless you made any changes since I last looked a couple weeks ago, this is literally taken from the website. I cut and paste directly. So we have Litter Quitter, and underneath it says Sebastian Business Against Waste. So my thoughts and comments and such, we always ask, what are your comments from looking at this? And so some thoughts from me was that we don't necessarily need to stay with Litter Quitter. We could do that Sustainable Sebastian Initiative, Business Against Waste. We could use our own Sustainable Sebastian stuff for anything we want to print out if we want to go forward with any of that. I thought I had some markups. That's not it. That first, third bullet down, the Keep Indian River Beautiful in partnership with Keep Brevard Beautiful. Like, none of that applies anymore. If we're going to make updates to our website, I would remove all other parties and make this all about us. So the things that, if we were going to come up with a concept, we would need some kind of place with forms that we could collect the information in, the Google Forms, in a way that we could all access, and a way that we could enter that information and keep it accurate, up to date, and available for others to look at. Certainly we can put promotional listings on an NRB website, but we don't have the Litter Quitter stickers. We make our own, maybe new ones. We could certainly make press releases, but we'd have to define what ones. I think a business would want to know where they're getting press release. We need to get update pricing and such if we were going to offer that as one of the benefits and give them, hey, here's where you can go. And then there's the other promotional items or items we would hand to them. We would need to create the rack cards, the table tent things that I didn't like the names of, you know, those kind of materials. And we should probably remove the map of the litter quitter location on our website and as we move forward, because that goes to litter quitters locations on a program that's no longer, it's defunct. That was it. I hope you got at least kind of the background of where the groups are and what each of the two programs have. And now it's up for us to determine our path forward.
Hold on one second, Ruth. That was awesome. That was really incredible. I mean, that was just awesome, and I'm so glad you were the point person on that and not myself, because it probably would have looked more like that. But that was just great, and I'm sure we got some questions now. Do you want to answer them from the podium, or do you want to come back up here?
Go up there.
Okay, go ahead and take a moment. Okay, that was really incredible presentation. Let's get some thoughts from our board on what we just heard. I think we're all probably thinking the same thing, but Dr. Mosbeck, would you like to lead us off?
Sure. Actually, maybe not, if I could.
We
my
can come
thoughts
back to you.
together. Yeah, do you
Absolutely.
mind?
Because it sounds like to me, we're going to either do a new program or not. That would probably be the first thing we need to decide. If we're going to do some type of litter quitter concept and bail on what we have already put forth. Because it doesn't sound like there's anything really there to run with at this point. Based on what Ruth has said, the staff isn't there, there's hardly anybody there on the other end. But we can develop our own concept going forward.
Yeah, and so I guess maybe that's my big question for Ruth, sorry, is from the conversations you had with with Keep Brevard Beautiful, with Brevard Zoo, Curb, et cetera, is this a program that disappears because funding's not available because of what's happened the last couple of years? Is this a program where, are the restaurants still, do you have any inclination of whether or not restaurants are still following some of these guidelines? And I had a question about the ocean-friendly restaurants. I think that was one that we didn't push quite as much because they had a fee associated with it. Do you know if that still happens? I want to say it was like $500 or something. I mean, I thought it was something significant.
I have no idea on the fee. I still have the person's number and trying to get back into contact that I can ask that.
Okay.
Can I just ask, is that fee that you're talking about with the Surf Rider,
Yeah.
that specifically?
Yeah, and it's listed on their benefits that you get, like a donation, kind of tax write-off for your donation. So that fee, I think, is considered a charitable contribution, but, yeah.
Dr. Mosbeck, do you have any other questions?
The first couple of questions she had, I got the sense that Brevard Zoo is down to more minimal personnel in terms of what they can do moving forward. They're doing a whole bunch with sustainability, but not necessarily with this. I still think they're trying to keep behind the minimizing plastics and such and having no waste. And they have zero waste events at the zoo, which has a big draw all in itself. So just don't think they're calling it that. And because the Keep Brevard Beautiful group no longer is there, they don't have any collaboration or continuation. The Keep Brevard Beautiful folks were the ones that drove the process and got all the materials together. And so it seems that
Gotcha.
personnel and such are a problem.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, it seems daunting with programs that are no longer in existence for us to try and pick up and move forward. I think that it's worth trying to pick up and move forward in some capacity. I don't know. I wonder if it's worth providing suggestions for businesses, and we can set up a level of criteria that we're willing to put Sustainable Sebastian kind of stickers or the classification on. I don't know if the levels is something we need to get into with bronze and silver and gold, or how, I don't know, but it's daunting.
I think one of the questions we may want to go ahead and have right now, instead of going through the motions of the others, if we want to continue that part of our Sustainable Sebastian until we can come back. Either we're going to develop something ourselves, or let's go ahead and terminate that part. One, we can't match anything to the website, and we don't have any personnel.
We have our volunteer group that could drive it. We have limitations in budget, and so keeping with Ms. Fraser's comments before, scope, schedule, budget to me, right? You have so much you can use for the whole program. And so we're talking and looking at the items that we can tackle with the remaining part of this 1.5 years, and maybe we do a new plan for 5 years, like she commented on. And so maybe this one doesn't get the priority right now. I thought we were all very gung-ho originally for this whole program, and we got excited on item 1A, right? I mean, it was really where we spent a lot of time, but we were certainly going to go on the coattails of others, and we had the coattails taken away. So I think it's educational value, even at the heart of going to restaurants and handing them something that says, hey, can you put this in your window front, and can you have your customers think about asking for a straw first? Just simple printed material. We can certainly provide a list of alternatives without actually providing alternative things to hand physically to them. Those are some things we could still focus in on as educational if we want to just talk about what we could do. Anyway, we're still looking at what we're going to do in this next 1.5 years or so for our 5-year plan and what's the most important. That's our next agenda item.
Tom, do you have any comments now?
I think I really don't have enough information, I'm not sure. I've been to a few of the waterfront restaurants. None that I know of use plastic utensils. I like the best idea, I think, is ask first before you give a straw, because let's face it, paper straws don't cut it. Multi-use straws are not going to make it, because washing them they have to be sterilized. So the only thing that makes sense is just to ask before you give somebody a straw, or have them ask for a straw before that. Definitely there should be no restaurants using styrofoam. That's just common sense. At the very least, they should be using plastics that are recyclable. I can't tell you how many times I go to a Chinese restaurant and I wash those takeout containers out, and when somebody comes to my house and they're leaving with food, guess what they get to bring home the food? you know, so it may be a good idea to set up something with the Chamber of Commerce, if the restaurateurs show up to those meetings, to find out what is their normal practice, and then see if we can adapt to that. Again, you know, just not giving straws to everybody at the table, that just drives me crazy, and I always end up leaving my straw, or, you know, because I may not be there when I bring the drinks.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I interject? I was giving this quite a bit of thought, excuse me, only because I know this is important to this group, and I understand it. But I can't get away from the fact that City Hall is still using plastic forks and styrofoam plates and styrofoam cups. I do not feel good having to go out to the business community and say, hey, you all do it, but we're still going to use our stuff. And I'm probably going to get in trouble here, but I'm sorry. That's the truth. And so years ago, we tried to be moving in that direction, but also we have to remember that the recyclable or compostable materials, this is a new technology, you know, that's still evolving. And what I'd like to maybe present to you all, because I think getting rid of single-use plastics is very, 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 very important for sustainability. Perhaps we do kind of a marriage of both programs, is what I would like to propose, because I think that we can, again, I got my blinders on, and I think this is what we can chew. I believe that my staff can help to come up with that, with your help. I'm going to need some volunteers to help with this. That, what did we call it? I got to go back to it. The comparison sheet. And here's how much, you know, styrofoam cups cost, $100 to a bag or whatever, but hey, here's how much this costs instead, and here's some comparisons. And hopefully we then adopt that here in City Hall. And with that comparison sheet and with that kind of experience in our back pocket, I know that the chamber, I can't imagine that they wouldn't want to partner with us. And maybe doing some kind of workshop, some kind of open house, if you will, showing these restaurants or even other businesses what you can do, and here's your cost comparison. Because it all comes down to cost, and we all know that. I mean, you know, businesses are businesses, and when they mass have to use these things, you know, how much is it going to cost them, and what's the savings in the I don't know. That's what I was kind of thinking. Some kind of marriage, at least in this initial step, that we got to come up with that cost comparison. We've got to figure out what are some of the better materials that we would feel are sustainable. I mean, kind of like the cups we used at Earth Day. You know, I mean, I think some maybe it was you, Dr. Mosebach, that was not happy. Maybe it was you. I'm sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth. That they wasn't completely compostable, and yet we were all happy that it was at least not recyclable, but it does break down. And I don't know. These are just my thoughts, and I would like your input on that, and maybe kind of doing a marriage of these programs. I'm done.
Can I make a comment?
Ms. Billman, please.
I think that's a great idea, but I think what went through my mind is possibly, are there any restaurants that anyone can think of that uses the correct type of to-go containers right off the top of your head? Or anyone that uses things that are compostable and that would be the correct way to do it? So that we could talk to them. You know that they've done the homework. You know, they've gone and done the cost comparisons and stuff on like different types of, you know, plasticware, or what's biodegradable, or are these plates better than these to-go contain, you know, all those types of things. So I think maybe if we have the opportunity to maybe go to a couple restaurants and just say, well, what are you using? You know, what are you guys finding out as far as like just being able to afford to do these changes that are the right thing to do? it just all comes down to money, the bottom line. And so what are they willing to do as a restaurant, and what have some of the restaurants done that others haven't, you know? What do you think about something like that?
I was thinking the same thing, some kind of we need to figure out a baseline. Like what do we have in existence? And so I think some of us might be surprised by, just seeing that there are many restaurants in our area who do not use plastic silverware, who use the ones that can be cleaned. And, almost ask questions in terms of what are you already doing? What would you be open to be doing, to doing in the future? So that and holding some kind of a potential workshop where business owners are potentially willing to come in and say, okay, these are things that they are interested in, because we could come up with a comparison sheet and they could say, nope, I'm not doing that. So it would be a waste of time, to really be able to work with them potentially and be more efficient in our use of time.
And the other thing, not only dealing with restaurants and businesses, but just paper product companies. I mean, you know that they have to have some sort of options. Well, if somebody wants, these to-go containers, well, what other types of containers are available? And maybe those people could give us some, information on, say, 100 of these compared to 100 of these, so that we can get that information to kind of go back to the restaurants or the businesses, like for paper bags versus, the plastic. Of course, we don't want plastic, but there are other options, and how much it would cost the business to go with these other options so that they know.
I think that comes from the retailers. That's where we went before, because they're the ones that are selling to the restaurants, not from the direct company that makes the product. So, yeah, we had done that before. Dr. Carrier had gone through and done that, and so all we need to do is, repeat that, I think. And I like your idea, suggestion for it, starting here for sure, as well as what you were saying. And the third one I might add in is having talked to Brevard Zoo and saying that they had a zero waste event was pretty exciting, but that's a lot for us to tackle, and I don't think we're available to do that. You need to understand that you're going to get compostable items, and you have to go to a compostable site when you're done and collect it, and apparently there are different colors of the compostable stuff that need to be segregated, and I'm going, that's complex. But if we talk about our Earth Day, Arbor Day celebration and trying to have a low waste event or find out information, well, I got information and passed it along from the person that sent it to me, but it would be great to consider city events and minimizing some of what we do there as an additional thing that we could at least approach people maybe and have that as a consideration.
Is there any additional comments from anybody? That will be a very, very valuable consideration, actually. One of the things I'd like to mention at this point, and we're still working on task one, basically talking about the support for overall reduction in the use of single-use plastics and the Keep Brevard Beautiful participation in the Litter Quitter, Surf Rider, all their participations. That's what we're talking about right now. One of the things I'd like to mention is that it doesn't seem we're very clear right now, regardless of what our intentions are and what we look to accomplish. But right at this moment, it doesn't look like we have a clear marching orders. It's the only thing I can refer to. And one of the rules is when the marching orders aren't clear from the top, the Army is sure to fail. It's just one of the rules. And I think we need to really clean up what we want to do in number one, because I don't know if somebody else is clear on it, please say something. And two, from there, work off of that. I mean, if we're going to keep number one, we need to get rid of everything that's in there just about, it looks like.
Except for the goal two.
Well, task two is a little different. I'm just referring to the initiative itself, where it says promoting Keep Indian River Beautiful. It doesn't sound like they're there anymore.
So our initiative one on this list includes goal 1s, 2, and 3.
Oh, right, yeah, but all of
And-
our goals are related to, are the initiative, because this is a summary that's related to this initiative.
We can certainly change what the initiative is, but I think what we're still trying to do is overall sustainability by reduction of single-use plastics or other products, period. That's what we're working toward. We put in those other words about other programs that were in place, but we still have that and it's business community. We could end it there. And for today, our goal is to come up with what's most important that we can tackle in the next year and a half. And our city staff has given us goal 2 and highlighted some of those things. I still think that they're very viable. So task 2A, task 2B, task
Right.
2C. And I'm thinking that for goal 1 under there, we may want to say, hey, let's at least come up with our comparison sheet. Let's talk about having city office having reduced their use, and where we can start, that might take us the year and a half. I'm not sure we can certainly start talking to restaurants if we want and get an idea so that we can have a workshop in another year.
No, I'm not saying that that's not a valid point. A year is just a very long time to be doing something that may not have such an effect based on not being very clear starting out from the very beginning. Because I still haven't figured out if we want to do our own package altogether, where it's a completely different name, which is, it's going to be involved. We're basically going to take everything that we've learned so far and make our own litter quitter, whatever we want to call it. And we're going to get rid of everything, just about everything else on here, keeping the tasks in mind. That stays the same. The wording is just, where do we want to take this? How's it going to benefit the people of Sebastian? And does it have to take a year and a half? Because everybody knows that's a very long time for a board to really work through everything. I mean, it's just, I don't know if the resources are there. And again, I'm not very clear on it. I don't see any clear faces yet on it. Even though the tasks are very clear, but like arrange meeting with Chamber of Commerce, we'll just talk about task 1A. What would you talk to them about?
So I think we're proposing to not have anything currently listed under goal 1 tasks.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We're
Right.
we're
I'm
getting
just
rid
gonna
of it.
Get rid of it.
Period.
Right.
And then we can certainly add what we've just talked about, which is that we can come up with a comparison sheet. We can have city employees or City Hall start using those, like we can put in some additional tasks.
Right. And then is that going to be just for the city of Sebastian businesses? It's just, because literally that's just a worksheet that we can put together as compared to doing a whole program, which is what we're pushing right now with Litter Quitter. And all the restaurants that are on there right now, they're still participants, but it doesn't sound like they're really participating in anything. There's nothing there.
There is no program.
Well, I can go back to every one of them, though, with our program that we develop, if you so chose, and we can basically sign all these people up right off the bat. It's like very low-hanging fruit. And we can put them all on a Litter Quitter program. We can develop our own program if you wanted to. We can make an effect, but we have to be just clear about it. And right now, I have to say, I'm just not clear. I know the tasks, but the initiative itself that these tasks are all tied to is pretty much null and void. As far as I can see, there isn't anybody else there.
Charles, can I make a recommendation? I mean,
Yes, sir.
instead of trying to hash this all out, we're missing a few members. Let's put this on next month's agenda and come back with this list and give us a time to go through each one of those things that are highlighted in yellow, see how we would change them, see what we would keep, what we would throw away. Because if we're trying to discuss this tonight, when it's
Right.
brand new to a lot of us,
Absolutely.
it just doesn't make sense. So I would recommend that we put this on next month's agenda. Let's all take it. We got 4 weeks to look it over, make ideas. Ruth came up with a lot of good ideas, and see what we can do with it.
Our action item is to determine the top 5 priorities, so we still have that.
I'd like to make a motion to table that action item to the next board meeting.
And the purpose would be just to give everybody more time to think because of the information shared tonight.
I think so, and there's a few people missing, and give them a chance to chime in person as opposed to,
I think we're going to be missing Dr. Carrier for a couple months down in his project. He might be able to participate via Zoom. I thought he was this time, but.
right.
Hey, I think he's there. Dr. Carrier, are you there?
Dr. Carrier has not joined.
Thank you. Well, I do make a motion to table that until the next agenda meeting. Can I
I
get a
second.
second? Can we get a voice vote to, a yes to approve?
Aye.
Same sign for nay?
We have a discussion, can we
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question about the motion? So we're tabling the entire item A2, determine top 5 sustainable Sebastian priorities. But I think my concern is in tabling it, I wonder if, we can say that it's still a priority to reduce single-use plastic usage in the city and businesses. And then we can come back and have a more in-depth discussion of what steps or what tasks under Goal 1 need to stay versus need to go.
That's about what we're saying right now. That's pretty
But-
close.
But we can still say, okay, reducing plastic usage and initiative number 1 is still a priority. However, we just have to have a more in-depth discussion of what the tasks are within that initiative.
Well, I think some of these tasks have got to go. We just
Yeah.
can't
Well,
do
yes,
them all,
no,
yeah.
I agree, I
Yeah,
agree.
and I don't want to rush any sort of decision on those. I'd rather take my time, take a look at it, and see what's out there, what we can and cannot do.
And I completely understand that, and I think that it definitely is worth consideration. By you saying, Thomas, that you want to come back to it and have that more in-depth discussion, are you on the fence about, can I ask this question, but
No,
are
go
you
right
on the
ahead.
fence in terms of whether or not you would put this in your top 5 priorities?
Oh,
Or
no, absolutely not. I'm not on the fence about them. I'm just in
how it
deciding
happens?
what task, right.
How it happens,
How it
right.
happens,
And
yes.
I
So
would.
that's a detail.
Right, and I would argue that A2 is saying that really, there's no question as to whether or not that's a top priority, it's just how do we tackle it? And so really what we're trying to discuss here is what are our top 5 priorities? And you've already said that it would classify as a top 5 priority. And again, I don't mean to put,
Right.
yeah, but so maybe we make a motion that at our next meeting, we come back to this and we must revisit how we update this plan.
The details.
Yes, the details, the how, but the what in terms of our 5 priorities, we can still decide today. And I agree with you. I think with missing some of our critical members here, I think it's important for us to have all of them discussing the how and the steps, the tasks, but the priorities, I think we can still decide upon.
I don't think the priorities are actually going to change. I don't think that's really, well,
Right,
first,
which is what we're tasked with doing. That's our action item.
right.
What are our priorities?
Well, there's a motion on the board. Let's get a voice vote on that.
So
and
now
then
we've
we'll
had
move on.
clarification. So the motion is that we are completely not doing,
Well, not completely not doing. Motion, tabling isn't not doing.
Today,
Tabling is
today.
just coming back.
you're tabling item completely, item A2.
Right, but that doesn't mean it's done. What that just means is that's just going to give us some time to come back. A few of us may not even decide that some of these things are worth prioritizing after we get rid of the other
Yeah.
places, so we don't want to make that decision tonight. I don't want to take nothing off the board, so it's basically the same thing that Dr. Mosbeck has said. We want to make the determination of what 5 priorities are, but it sounds like we need a little bit more in-depth discussion on this. And that's pretty much where I'm at on that. It's just, not that, my personal opinion is I'd like to make us a whole new project and make our own litter quitter and push that to the whole world, and let's save the world from single-use plastics by what we can do here. That's how I feel about it. And I'm ready to deploy some real heavy-duty artificial intelligence programs towards it and do a machine learning model on the whole thing that's going to be, that it will stick with us through time immemorial. So there's other things that we may want to do. I don't want to totally get rid of it, but I just want us to take a moment, think about what we're doing. The 5 sustainable priorities are still there. They're not going anywhere. But I want to come back at the next meeting, see where we're at with this, and at least think about what we want to do.
I think on a few of them, we may even want to rearrange the order, and number 1 may not be number 1.
But I don't want to get rid of any of them right
No.
now. I just need some time to think about it. We have a motion, we have a second on the motion. We can have a voice vote for approval to table it to the next meeting.
Would you clarify for me, who seconded the motion?
I did.
Tom first,
I
who
thought
second?
you had, but I wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Ms. Billman seconded? Okay.
Oh, no, wait.
You can only have 1 second.
No.
You 2 guys did it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do my own motion.
You
Okay.
made the
Yeah.
motion.
Okay, gotcha.
You seconded, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And there was 3 in favor.
3 in favor, and any nays?
Nay.
Nay.
And we have 2 nays, 3 favors, so the motion passes to move this to the next
And
time we can get on the
I'd just like to comment that my nay is because I think we can still categorize when we're talking priorities. We're talking a big picture, and what you've been continuously discussing is a small picture of how you're going to implement each of those things. And that was my objection, so.
And duly noted, absolutely. It's the most important, it's the number 1 thing. And anytime I've worked in any program that's not clear, it fails. And we're on a very limited time, very limited resources. This isn't very clear, and I don't really put my name on stuff that's not 100% clear. But we're going to come back next meeting and make it clear. And if we have to, somebody comes up with their plan, I'm going to work on what my plan should be, and I'll present it. I'd like to do just what we're doing and do it ourselves. That's really what I'd like to do, but I want to be as crystal clear as that IPM that we worked on was.
So for you to vote on your highest priorities, do you have to have it all outlined as to exactly what would be listed? Because I look at the initiative as supporting overall reduction in use of single-use plastics
Boom, done.
as being.
That's all you need.
As being the priority.
Yep.
And, okay, so how is clarifying how we're going to do that helping you to prioritize the big picture?
Well, it doesn't. It's just, right now, it doesn't say that. And we need to change this, and then some of these are just going to overlap each other at that point. I mean, they just are. We know that some of these are going to definitely overlap each other.
So do you want to take any time now to make it more clear so that we can be in a position next week or next month to be able to do that?
Well, as clear as I want to be is just what you just said. That's pretty much it. After that, because we've already taken a vote on it, I'd like to go ahead and move forward on that. So we'll talk about that next agenda, actually. Is there any other questions on that?
So can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
When we're setting our priority, the goal is to actually put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To have the top 5, or have all 5 of them as priorities?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused by it all myself.
Right.
So we have 6 initiatives, and they're the initiatives, but
Yeah.
I thought we were looking at 5 top priorities for this year. If it's 6, I'm okay with 6. But what I would contend is that the initiatives don't change. The initiatives are the initiatives. They're in the resolution. What we're looking at is what's the action item for us to be able to achieve at least one of these goals, right, under the initiative. And so, I mean, I guess that's what I was trying to do, is that number 2, support landscaping practices. Do we want to work on goal 5 or do we want to work on goal 6, or is it a combo? Because I need to know what direction we're heading. And I don't necessarily need details, but I just need to know, do we feel under initiative 2 that planting something in a public park is the goal this year, or is it rewriting the landscape code? I mean, I need to kind of need these things. My year's running out, that's all.
So you're looking for, instead of the top 5 priorities, can we clarify that what this action item is really about is to find the top 5 tasks?
Or goals, sure.
Well,
Yeah.
you would include a whole goal then? All the
Well, only
tasks under a
because,
goal?
Ruth, the way you guys wrote this,
I didn't,
I wasn't quite involved, but the
I'm
way.
just we can all look at this paper and look at the terms that are used, and so it's helpful to use the terms on the paper to help clarify how we're communicating and what our goal is.
I do understand that, and so what I'm saying is that the initiatives don't change, but under the initiative, there are goals. So if we're saying goal 5 is going to be our top
Okay.
priority this year, and we're gonna do these tasks that are under it, that helps, I think, everybody.
So our action item for the next meeting will be to determine the top 5 sustainable Sebastian priority goals.
Perfect. And then that would give us some clarity and some good direction, because right now I've heard, 20 different things, and I've heard several people say we're not clear. Just what you just brought up, we're still not clear. For me, that just messes up how I think, because if it's not clear, it just messes up everything about how I think. And I would like to bring this back, develop those 5 tasks, and move on.
So as part of that discussion then, I think that one of the things that seems to be a necessity is what the status of Goal 1 is. Because Goal 1, under Initiative 1, focuses on the community/business awareness of litter quitter and certifying local businesses. So if that were to potentially be one of someone's top 5 goals, or if that is to be on our list of the top 5 goals, we need to understand what that looks like.
But litter quitter doesn't exist, really.
That's the point.
Yeah, so that's
Right,
toast.
so as we come back next meeting, we have to have a discussion first of what Goal 1 consists of. Is that correct? Am I?
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, they'll put them in a list that the number 1 is now gonna be our top goal for the remainder of the year.
Knowing that none of this exists anymore, litter quitter's not there, surf rider's not there for us. We don't have a comparison list.
Understandable. Yes, that's how, that we need to rephrase it.
Right. All of the vendors that we've been wanting to work with aren't there. So if we can come back next meeting with this in mind. I know that doesn't help you out, Ms. Frazier, for this month. But everything else in here, we can continue moving forward on. There isn't any reason why somebody still can't be looked at, because we've been moving forward on them even with the status we've had. So it isn't like nothing hasn't been done in the last 4 years, even with the deficits of our number 1 initiative isn't what it was. But I just need some clarity, and then we can move on from there. So just picking the top 5 tasks,
Goals.
top 5 goals
Goals.
out of what we have here. But what do you want to do about Initiative 1, though? That's really what we're going to come back to.
Well, we're gonna look at each one of those initiatives and at least put them in order of what we think is the highest priority.
Sounds like fun. Go ahead, Ms.
I'm
Spillman.
getting really confused here.
I am too. That's why I
Okay,
wanted to come back
we
next
have
meeting.
initiatives, we have goals, we have tasks, and So you're asking for the goals. So literally, if we're going to go down the goal column, you have some tasks highlighted. And so from what I'm thinking, I'm understanding, is you would like for us to go through, like, the first one, the initiative number 1, which is what we've been hashing around here. Under goal 2, you've got 3 tasks there that you want clarification on.
No, what I'm saying is that I believe I've heard, and I think it can be achieved, goal 2 as a priority to address the number 1 initiative, right? The initiative number 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I'm saying goal 2, you all aligned these tasks up with it as you produced this 5-year plan.
Right.
And I'm saying, I think that we can do those to achieve that goal 2.
Oh, I see.
Right? Now, if you go back and say, no, we'd rather goal 1, recognizing that these other organizations are no longer viable, but you want to create your own, well then, okay. I guess we'll make those yellow. I'm just saying, and may I suggest that the next meeting we start with initiative 6, maybe? Move
I like
forward.
that. So right
Maybe.
now, you have highlighted items in 7 different goals. That's just a statement.
Say what, I'm sorry, ma'am.
You have highlighted tasks in 7 goals.
Sure, I
Right.
understand that.
So we're looking for 5.
But, you know,
And
maybe
we're
you all
looking-
say, let's do 6. I just, again,
Yeah.
I have, you know, us two and a few other people, that's all. But of course, you all, if you say, yes, this is very important to us and we're gonna volunteer to do this portion, then great. And you know, I don't want us to get lost in the weeds too much. I mean, we can develop these programs as we move forward, and I apologize if I wasn't clear enough. I think all of us talking about this and how we're gonna move forward is really important tonight. Would it help if Felicia and I provided you with any kind of background information that we have on these separate items, or are you pretty much familiar? I rattled off a bunch of things tonight. I don't know if it'll help you if I provide it for you.
I thought your summary was really helpful, because I think one of the things that I had personally been frustrated in is we don't see that report, where we don't get that kind of regular check-in of what's happening behind the scenes in the city of Sebastian. We just see what we discuss here. And so that was really helpful to know that we are making significant progress and that it is in the budget. And I wanted to make sure that because I thought it was going to come up in our conversation later, I did want to say thank you for having that, because I do feel, regardless of whether we are tabling this until the next meeting, I am now confident in the fact that I know the city of Sebastian is continuing to move forward on these things in a significant way, regardless of what we do up here.
Well, and thank you for the compliment, but now I'm feeling bad that we haven't updated you more, and I apologize for that. We'll have to put that in your noggin, because you know it'll be gone from mine by sundown. We'll try to do that on a quarterly basis. Heck, it's what the council has asked for also, and that's a failure on staff's part for us not to keep all of you boards apprised. We get so busy, as you all know, and, but I think it's very important that we do that, and I'm gonna try to, we'll try to do a nice spreadsheet of what I reported on, so then you can kind of say, well, maybe goal 1 is such a big bite, but goal 6 or goal 5 or whatever is already kind of in the works, and we can just kind of run with it.
Yeah.
And so one follow-up question, because I know resources is certain in, resource budget, all is in your consideration, but you've highlighted the items that you think that can be accomplished in by the end of the 5-year plan.
Sure.
Okay. So there are 7, and you wanted to cut back, or you still feel comfortable if the list is only what it is, that's something that is doable?
Well, I will leave that up to your discretion, but I guess I'm always comfortable with 5. But, I mean, heck, 4 is good. Is that what you're suggesting, Ruth?
No, I was not understanding the full load that everybody has in your positions. I don't see that. I know that you have an abundance of work and not as much time to do it. I appreciate all that. So I was just literally trying to understand from you without, holding your feet to the fire, if this isn't what you presented as something to do for us, for our consideration, is something that you think is accomplishable, if that's
I
a
do.
word. And okay, that was all I was trying to get at.
And then again, also feeling like it could make a nice impact. It could make a nice impact as we move into the second phase of our sustainable Sebastian. I mean, I want landscape maintenance policies. I want, it's funny because I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but people do, as I'm walking out there in the spring and all the wildflowers are going nuts and there's butterflies and there's, birds in there and we've got big box turtles walking around and I'm like, yeah. People do say, hey, when are you gonna clear those weeds out and trim all that up? And I'm going, oh, never, but I hope that, that doesn't come down, that I have to clear it all out, because that's what we're trying to achieve. This is what we're trying to achieve, to show that we're a sustainable landscape also. And to me, landscape ecology that's why I moved into planning. But sorry, you don't need to know about me. I think you're all on the right track, and I want to help you as much as, Felicia is so passionate about this stuff, very passionate, and I want to keep her engaged in it, because permitting gets old and tiresome. So let's, help her move on. We'll provide you with as much information as we can for the next meeting, and then hopefully we can move on with determining what goals we should move towards. Okay?
And may I add that coming into this position as the environmental tech, this sustainable Sebastian stuff is much more directionless than Earth Day was. It's more open, it's more broad, and trying to define specifically what are the things that we're aiming to tackle, what are the things that are accomplishable, that we can actually feasibly get done within the next year, is going to give me direction to help you guys and all of us accomplishing this. Because Earth Day was like, okay, all of these specific steps were already set before me, but Sustainable Sebastian is still kind of a blank slate. This stuff hasn't been done yet, it hasn't been tackled, and yes, like say with Litter Quitter, it had been done, but now that it's not there, it's not as viable as it once was. And so there are other things that, are really viable options that we can work towards, and that I have a better concept and better grasp of what we can do with, your assistance. And so I think that's one of my big priorities right now, is figuring out, okay, how are we going to actually, take this action? What steps can I take? Because if you guys say, well, we want to do this, this, and this, then it's my turn to figure out, okay, well, what are the subtasks of all of that? What does that mean, for the steps? What does that mean for our future meetings? Having, I kind of have to have that, like, forward planning for each of these sorts of steps. And so, each of these tasks you could think of as having multiple subtasks. And so, like, leaving it open-ended is admittedly a bit hard for me, because I would really like to know, when can we start? When can we keep moving forward? So having you guys really look into this and identifying what really matters to you, which one of these goals and then which of these tasks do you think are really, really viable?
Felicia, could we do it a
know.
different way?
Sorry?
How about this? How about you look at it and you tell us what the top 5, because there's only 6 things here that we work on, 6 initiatives. Why can't you tell us the top 5 you think we can get done, and then we could look at it and decide if that's our top 5 or not, or we could come back and add to it.
They've already identified 7 goals.
Yeah, no,
When we're coming back, we're voting on goals, 5 goals, or whatever number they said.
So Ruth is correct. Like, Lisa and I have identified the things that we think are viable, that we think are the most important, that we think we can actually accomplish. And, the hope is that from those things you would say, okay, this really is a priority. Or if you disagree with those priorities, then we can talk about that. That, you know, that was
Are you
the
talking
aim
about
of
the,
this.
the highlighted yellow?
Yes.
Well, I've got 11 on here, and,
But their tasks, the tasks are under a goal. And so if you look, we're voting for, no matter how many tasks, we're voting for a goal.
The idea is to set in stone, okay, we are absolutely going to take action on this particular item, and then I can run with it and I can say, okay, now, you know, I'm going to give Sherida this task, and Thomas is going to get this task, and, you know, Sarah's going to get another task, you know, so that way we can actually move forward with it. But if we're still up in the air about which ones are the most important, I'm kind of stuck. Does that make sense?
Can I interject, not to cut you off, but, for example, looking at just sort of summarizing these 6 initiatives, for me, the 2 that are most important to me would be number 2 and number 3, which would have to do with landscaping and trees. And so those, you have areas that you see that these are the things that we can accomplish with those initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be my 2 tops. So I don't know about the rest of you.
You would have to go to the goal level, even though they're under initiatives. We are voting for goals.
I understand. So those are my favorite initiatives. So then I would go to those 2 areas, and these are the goals in those 2 areas. So you just want 5, correct? Got it. Okay.
and I think that's what's gonna happen in the end, is that we're all gonna come back with something different, a different goal, and then we're gonna have to work it out there. And I don't know why I can't have you just tell me the 5 that you think would also be the most viable. Because we don't have the ability to say, okay, we can probably get this done because we have the resources, and we can probably get this done because I got the personnel. I mean, it would be helpful, because there's a lot here, and number 1 is already blown out of the water, and that's our number 1 thing.
Ms. Fraser's entire beginning presentation was that. Going through and saying, we have the GIS for the habitat and the greenways, we have, and the corridors.
Well, that's what she said. She said, we have this, we have that.
Yeah, that's why she was highlighting those things that are in bold.
But we
that are
need to
highlighted.
prioritize that.
But that's our job. Our job is to prioritize that. Today, she's giving us everything we can possibly do. Now it's our chance to say, okay, we're gonna do this one first,
Well,
this
I
one
think
second.
okay, we've already tabled it, but I think what's gonna happen is that what Ms. Billman just said, we're all gonna come back with several suggestions, and we're gonna be at the same spot that we're doing right now, next meeting.
But that's okay, Charles.
It
Okay,
is.
that's okay.
We can all vote
It's okay.
our top 5 and where the highest
Let's see
number
how
of
they
counts goes.
interact. We could do that, too.
All right. And let's see what happens when we come back to the next meeting. Is there any additional questions on what we just spoke about? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, new business. Board to consider Tuesday, July 11th as an alternative date to the July NRB meeting. And it's an action item.
I make a motion that we change the meeting date from July 4th to July 11th.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Everybody in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, same sign? Okay, that was easy enough.
I have a quick, I know that I'll be out of town. We have to stick on stay with a Tuesday?
I'm not sure. We didn't check any other
Okay,
days of the
yeah,
week,
that's okay.
only because, you
I'll
know,
have to-
Thursdays are usually set aside.
July
for
18th
people.
is the same to me, too. It doesn't make any difference.
I mean, do you want to make it July 18th? I mean, it's up
That's
to
a
you
good
all.
question. I never knew we could do something other than a Tuesday.
I mean, I will be back by the 18th. I'm just out of town that week.
It's fine by me.
But
I make
yeah,
a motion that we change the date from July 4th to July 18th.
I think you have to
Rescind the first one.
rescind the first one.
I make a motion that we rescind the first date change from July 4th to July 11th.
I second that motion. Everybody in favor of rescinding that, say aye.
Aye.
Any against, same sign?
Okay, then I would
That
make a
passes.
motion to change the July 4th meeting to July 18th.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any same sign for nay? Okay, we can change it to July 18th, if that's okay. right, seeing there's no other business, we get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Can you get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned.